I'm Eric Stafford talking about some things that I picked up this week out and about, which I usually don't pick up this much, but oh my God, stay tuned. Now, if you're not familiar with the channel, I usually do movies. I kind of do a little bit of all media, but I will say I do like movies. I do like comics. I've always been into both, very much so. And so what I'm going to talk to you about today is some of the pickups I had over the last weekend. Last week, not this weekend, but the weekend before, me and my wife went to Abingdon, Virginia, and I picked up a couple of manga. And I was like, I've never been a big manga person. I've dabbled. There's some back here. But anyway, I digress. I've dabbled, but I just really wanted to take the plunge, see what the kids are all talking about. My son's into some of it. He's picked up Attack on Titan, and he's more into the anime, which most kids are, but then he's also, I got to know the story, and he had to pick up some of the manga. So if you don't know, manga is Japanese for comics, but usually they're published weekly. The biggest magazine is Shonen Jump, which Shonen means young man's, and then Jump is just the name of it. So it's like Young Man's Jump. So they have different variations. But anyway, decided I was going to pick up some manga. I'm kind of big into, a friend of mine at work had suggested My Hero Academia, and he was like, have you ever seen this? Because you're so big into superheroes. It's all about superheroes in training and them going to school, which, you know, is basically the X-Men. But it's got a crazy kind of Japanese twist to it. The Japanese, they think they get American stuff, and then sometimes they really don't. So, hence, Evangelion. If you've ever watched Evangelion, it's supposed to be about Christianity to a certain point, but they get it all wrong. Like the angels are the enemies, and they're giant kaiju, giant monsters like Godzilla that come to kill the humans. It's all kind of crazy. It's all mixed up. But anyway, it's the same kind of thing with My Hero Academia in that they have the strangest powers, but everybody, they call their powers a quirk, and everybody's born with a different quirk. But this one boy, Midoriya, is born without a quirk. And there's not a lot of people that are born without a quirk, and yet he somehow inherits a quirk called One for All. And that's pretty much the first issues of the book, or the or first episodes of the anime. If you watch it, it's available on Hulu. If you got Hulu, you can watch it. It's also available in a myriad other places. They even have the Blu-rays at Walmart, so you can pick it up anywhere. It's kind of the vanilla flavor of manga right now. So that and Demon Slayer are kind of like the big ones. Bleach, of course, One Piece, all these other manga, which I've read some of them. When they started doing Shonen Jump as an American magazine in the early 2000s, I picked those up and was happy to get them and enjoyed it. But then it kind of faded out, and then they quit doing it. But Viz Comics that did the manga, they just kind of faded out. They're still around. It's not that. They weren't selling enough of the Jump to keep it going, and so they got out of it. But I digress, of course, as always. But I'm going to talk to you about some of the things I picked up this past week. I actually went to McKay's in Winston-Salem, which you guys have seen me talk about that before on the movie side. And they got movies, they got toys, they got comics, they got books, they got everything. But it's all used, and so you go there, and usually the prices are a little cheaper. For some reason, if McKay's thinks it's popular, it'll be like $1 off. And so there were some things I was really kind of disappointed, because I went, you know, thinking I'm going to grab some manga. I'm going to go back and pick up some stuff and get it at a cheaper price. Oh, heck no. Everything was about maybe $1 cheaper, $2 cheaper at the most. And if you have a Prime account with Amazon, there's no point. I mean, because you could have it sent to your home, you know, for less, you know, delivered to your door. But I digress yet again. But I was really kind of disappointed. I went around and looked around, and of course I found stuff. I mean, I'm always going to find stuff. But they have all kinds of Blu-rays, movies, and all that stuff. They even have a lovely lovely $1, $2 table that's right up front. That has, well, it's not up front now. They've kind of moved to the back. But anyway, if you go in there, there's like Blu-rays and DVDs that are so popular that they have so many copies of that they'll sell them from anywhere from a quarter to 95 cents to $1 to $1.99, and they're just in this one table area, which is about, I would say, about 5 or 6 tables long. And so you can pick through that. You can sit there and thumb through them, see the spines, see what the titles are. These are some of the things that I picked up at McKay's. So this is just kind of a haul video. First up, we're going to go with the DVDs and we're going to go with the movie side of things, and then we'll get into the books and the manga. But one thing that I have a great love for. You can see some of them over here. Robotech, which was big when I was a kid, and they last year or the year before, it's been a couple of years maybe, they finally like put them out on Blu-ray, and even WHKY they used to work for, they used to show Robotech. A friend of mine tells me they showed the same episode every day for a year or something, but you know, I digress again. But anyway, I picked up the final chapter of Robotech, which is the final series. It's 3 different anime series that are put together, and they kind of like made up a story that hooked them all together, and which, you know, made it look like it was bigger than it was, but it was 3 separate series, and then they came up with how they all tied together, which was protoculture, and which is a kind of an alien energy source, and also a cloning technique, and also it's a great MacGuffin because protoculture basically does anything. So it'll fly spaceships, it'll clone people. It's fabulous, that protoculture. Anyway, this is the final series in the set, which I have never watched all of these through. In this particular set, they kind of started out with like regular Transformers, where they were flying kind of jet fighters that would transform into robots. Then in the second series, they were flying motorcycles. It was kind of like flying motorcycles that would change, and it was different robots. But this one is regular old motorcycles, just kind of futuristic and boxy looking, that do change into armored outfits. It's not that they look like robots. Their motorcycle actually becomes a suit of armor. Haven't watched these. Wanting to see it. Wanting to pick these up. This goes back to when I was, oh my God, probably 12. But anyway, want to pick that up. Going to finally watch that. Next up, couldn't pass this by. Once Upon a Time in the West. If you've never seen it, it's one of Sergio Leone's famous films. This one has Henry Fonda and Charles Bronson in it. So, you know, some great folks in it. Anyway, it's got a great soundtrack to it. It's very unique looking, but this is one of the big budget movies he got to make after he made The Good and the Bad and the Ugly. So this was his American kind of backed movie. And it's long. It's long. I remember that about it. I've watched parts of it, but I've not made it all the way through. It's good, but it's like, it's a commitment. So, but it was only 95 cents. So for 95 cents, a 2-disc set, I'll give you that so you can see that, 2-disc set. And this is shopping at McKay's because this is just out there. There was another one that I found first that was a beat up copy, and the spine was tore up on the casing and all that stuff. I go 2 tables down, find this one for the same price, in better shape, but it didn't have the little paper insert. Oh, Eric walks back down to the other table and picks up the paper insert, puts it in the copy he's buying because that's the kind of collector I am. But anyway, they're out there. You can just do that kind of stuff. Also, they had a movie called The Shadow Returns, which I'm a big Shadow radio person. I like those shows. They did a movie with Alec Baldwin in the 90s, in the early 90s. But this is one of the early movies they did back when it was on radio. And I've never seen it out in the wild. When you actually open the cover up and everything, the DVD looks like it's homemade. It's very cheaply done. And yet, when I scanned it in my movie software, it had a code, and it was produced and made by a true manufacturer. So kind of odd, but looking forward to that. Also picked up, I've been into the X-Files recently, and I picked up the X-Files I Want to Believe, which I didn't pick up those movies. I don't have any of the shows on Blu-ray or anything. I've been watching that on Hulu as well. We subscribe to everything at my house because I have 2 kids, the wife, we got Netflix, we got Hulu, we got them all. We do it all. So anyway, but anytime I can pick up a copy of something and it's 95 cents, yeah, 95 cents. So picked it up. And just a statement on Blu-rays and DVDs and 4K and all that stuff. Most of the players now, if you do get a 4K player, a 4K player will upgrade your picture a little bit. And if you're like me and you're over 50 and you have eyes that are not as good as they used to be, the difference between Blu-ray and 4K is very, very small. Now, when we were younger and they went from DVD to Blu-ray, it was a big jump. But that technology has improved the entire time. So the DVDs have improved, the picture quality's improved. If you don't believe me, go back and get one of those old clamshell ones with the paper case that Warner Brothers used to make. Put that bad boy in and look at it and look at how horrible that picture is. Okay, on top of that, still digressing, if you're watching it on a streaming service, and they really don't stream it in 4K most of the time. And if you're watching it that way, it's actually probably less pixels than if you were watching it on the DVD. So in a handy tip, the DVDs look great. And Blu-ray has never surpassed DVD. 4K is not doing anything close to that, so much so that Disney was like, we're not putting anything but new movies out on 4K because they just didn't want the expense. And so what's happening is physical media shifts and dies to a certain degree or shifts to something else. And the streaming services, so many people watch stuff on streaming services that if there's a movie that you really, really, really want or a movie that means a lot to you, you might pick it up on Blu-ray or DVD, whichever one you can find. You can hit the pawn shops, you can hit places like McKay's, like I have done, and you can get them on the cheap. I mean, you can get them pretty cheap. Goodwill's a great place. I like to swing by Goodwill once a week and see what they got, because sometimes they get crazy stuff. You just never know. You never know what you're going to find. But that's the movie side of things. Then, of course, I went to the books. I was going to go through looking at the manga and all that stuff. So let's go through, and this was one of the mangas I picked up, which is Death Note, which the kids will know Death Note. It's on Netflix. There's a live-action movie of it. But basically, it's a kid that, like, he finds a book. He finds a book where you can write somebody's death, and then it happens. So, but there's this demon fish-looking dude that's doing the dirty work. That's kind of the bad guy. But anyway, he becomes friends with the guy and has him do stuff. See, it's even got advertisement for the movie right there on the cover. But usually this manga is $9.99 if you buy it new. Of course, McKay's had it for $8. Not a big jump. But this particular one was $1. And the reason I got it and picked it up is because not only is it the original manga and the first volume in that story, but it's in Japanese. It's in the actual Japanese. And I just thought that was too cool to pass up for $1. I mean, I still see the artwork. I was kind of looking at them to study the artwork and that stuff. I have read Death Note and had seen the movie, but I thought for $1, I can't pass that up. I'm getting that. So I did pick that up. I found this book. I'd seen it on, because this is all superhero stuff and that kind of thing, but I had seen this book on Amazon and in some of my superhero searches, and I love the title of it. It is The League of Regrettable Superheroes, and it's like, look, up in the sky, it's a bee, it's a witch, it's a giant eyeball, and these are some of the heroes from over time that didn't quite make it and weren't quite that good. And it goes through them and talks about their weird and strange history. Now, this particular edition, it's a large edition if you find the book, usually out in the wild at a bookstore. But this was a special, smaller edition, the size of my hand, that was made for Loot Crate. And it even says Loot Crate Edition. So, but I love it. I mean, it's perfect size. It's manga size. It's that size. So that's about the size of what a manga is. Also saw this. Raw. If you've ever seen Raw magazine was something that came out in the 80s. It was made by Art Spiegelman, who made Mouse, and his wife Francois Spiegelman, who is a French cartoonist. And this particular one has a cover by R. Crumb, and he's like, it's got the Swami here praying, and he's saying, and please God, get rid of the Ninja Turtles, which was popular at the time, still popular today. But anyway, Raw was kind of a high art book. I'm going to flip it out for you some. But they would sometimes have historical stuff in it, like, and it's about the size of a manga, but they had one in here of Crazy Cat, which is from back in the 20s, was a newspaper strip in the 20s. There was Mouse, got some great stuff in it. But these in particular, if you find any of the Raw issues, this is a smaller version they did. They did like 4 issues of this, and they had the giant books. If you find the giant books, they go for like $200 a piece. So if you find a Raw, and this one was $7.50, and that was a steal, because you can get it online for $7 maybe if somebody doesn't know what it is, and then it goes anywhere up from there. It could be 20 bucks or whatever. The original price was $14.95 when it came out. So, but it was sent to bookstores and stuff. But the original Raw magazines were kind of really hard to get, and they run about $200 a piece. But Art Spiegelman can't be beat. It's going to be good, even if it hurts your feelings and he's too truthful. It's going to be good. Then of course picked up some comics. Some of the comics I picked up, and I apologize for my bags because the bags might reflect a little bit. But one of the big mangas that came out, one of the first mangas that came out in America, was a manga called Crying Freeman, which is available on Amazon, and it's also available on Kindle. So you can actually buy it on Kindle, and the Kindle edition is only like $4.99. But these particular issues, and there was a lot of issues that were done by Viz Magazine, and they were only 75 cents a piece. So why would I pay more than the 75 cents a piece? Which, and then have a physical copy of it and can actually study the art a little better. The same guy, the same cartoonist, did a book called Maya the Psychic Girl, which was probably the first manga that came out in America as that happened. I'm trying to think of I'm really horrible at Japanese names, so we'll go with Ryoshi Akagami, and he's the cartoonist that actually did the drawings. It's written by somebody else, stories by Kazu Kooke, and but he also did Maya the Psychic Girl, which is really good, and it was optioned for movies forever, probably up there like Battle Angel Alita. It was optioned forever, but nobody's done a movie yet. And actually, I think it was Sparks, the band Sparks, was hired to do the music, and then they worked on the music, wrote it to make it a musical or have music in it, and then the movie was never made. I would love for that Sparks album to come out, but they may or may not ever do that. Anyway, got several issues of Crying Freeman. Look, he's fighting a bear. Anyways, he's a tattooed assassin that fights people all the time. It was kind of known at the time for being a little racy because it did have its nudity. They've covered up his wife here. But it was kind of racy in that and had a lot of violence to it. I had bagged these. These were just open, but they are the really nice editions. So I was kind of happy with that. Picked those up, like I said, for 75 cents a piece, and that's nothing to sneeze at. I'm trying to think of anything else. These are all other Crying Freemans. It's not the entire set. There was several different series, several different stories. I think there's 5 total books that are on Kindle that you can get. Pretty cool. Don't know if you've ever heard of Miracle Man. Miracle Man is the British version of Shazam. And what happened was when Shazam, the people that did Shazam, Fawcett Books, were sued by DC because Shazam was too close, or Captain Marvel was too close to Superman, and they won in court. So what happened is they had to quit publishing. Shazam was more popular in England, and more popular here actually than Superman at the time, and that's why DC sued them. So what happened in England is they're in England, this all happens, and a guy that was working on the book at the comic publisher was like, hey, we can just make our own. And he did, and he called him Marvel Man instead of Captain Marvel. And his word that he said instead of Shazam was Kimota, which is atomic spelled backwards. And so he would say Kimota and change into Marvel Man. Let's jump to the 80s. Then the 80s, Alan Moore revitalizes it, who you say, Alan Moore, I've heard of that guy. He's the guy that wrote The Watchmen. He wrote The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He wrote so many of these things. But anyway, he wrote Swamp Thing. He put everything on a different level. He wrote comics like it was serious literature. So he takes over doing Marvel Man, brings it to America. They do actually have it as Marvel Man still in England in a book by Quality Comics. Then they bring it to America at Eclipse Publishing, and they change the name of it to Miracle Man so that Marvel doesn't sue them. Not DC, Marvel. But now DC owns Shazam, and that's how you saw the Shazam movie, because DC owns it now. But so now the ripoff character that's named Marvel Man is actually at Marvel, but they kept Miracle Man. So if that's not confusing. Some of the later issues were written by Neil Gaiman, who just had the Good Omens series come out, second series. So a lot of people love Miracle Man. It's got a great story, good stuff, check it out. But this particular book is on the history of Miracle Man, or Marvel Man, and going over all that and talking about it. And it was only $1.50. And it's by Tomorrow's Publishing, which is in Raleigh, which they do great books. Work with Roy Thomas a lot, which Roy Thomas is like the second Stan Lee. He did Stan Lee's job longer than Stan Lee did. So, you know, you should know a lot about Roy Thomas. And Roy Thomas actually lives in North Carolina. And if you go to some of the Charlotte cons, he's usually there. Like I said, I was trying to study manga. I was thinking about picking something up. I went to the art book section at McKay's, and they had this particular book for a whopping quarter. For a quarter. And it's How to Draw Manga. And I know how to draw, but I don't really have an Eastern flair to my drawing, so I thought any little bit helps. And so I was going to try to draw something and go with that. I also swung by, on the same trip, this same weekend, I swung by Hobby Lobby in Winston to pick up some stuff for my wife. So pick up some yarn, because she's crocheting me a blanket and she needed more yarn. So I went to pick that up, and they had, because I'm such a big My Hero Academia fan, they had the main character, who is Midoriya. They had him as a statue, but the statue was only $10. So yeah, that's going in the office. And if you come by my office at the county offices, you'll see it. It'll be sitting up in there collecting dust. So, but anyway, picked up Midoriya, and then also picked up some room decals, which I'm just a nerd. I like a big sticker, and the big stickers were on sale as well. They were only like $2.50 for like the big stickers, and I was like, you know, I love big stickers. I put them on my laptop. I put them on my work laptop. I put them on everything. So that was McKay's in Winston-Salem. That was Friday. Saturday, I went to Time Tunnel had a local show. Time Tunnel is the comic shop in Hickory, and they had a show at the Highland Rec. Me and my buddy Jody Carroll, you saw him doing the Mission Impossible things. Me and Jody Carroll went and just went to see what they had. I had not been to any of the shows that Time Tunnel does at Highland Rec. I think this is the second or third year they've done them. And it seems like they tend to do shows in between shows. Like there's a show coming up in Concord next week, and which will be August 6th when you're watching this. And there's a show coming up there, but they did the show in Hickory and just kind of squeezed it in. Wasn't huge on dealers, wasn't huge on audience. G.I. Dave was there, hoping to have G.I. Dave on the channel before too long. And talking about a horror convention. It's going to be in Lenore. In Lenore, dude. A horror convention. It's going to be great. Can't wait for that. It's going to be in October. But we're going to talk about that later. But also, this is some of the stuff I picked up at that convention. And just some more books. Like I say, I was trying to get some manga, trying to get some Japanese comics. This is some of that. I also filled some holes in my own personal collection. They had yet another Viz manga called Cobra, which was also kind of racy at the time. It had some nudity in it, but he's kind of like an outer space James Bond. And he even kind of looks like Daniel Craig a little bit, which is kind of odd, being as he came out like sometime in the late 70s, I think like 78 or 79. But there's like an animated movie of Cobra you can watch on Amazon. You can watch all that stuff. But anyway, they had like 3 or 4 issues of Cobra. See, he's got the spy girls, this outer space spy criminal. He's always got a cigar in his mouth. Kind of tough guy, but see, racy covers. That was kind of a thing. Anyway, picked those up. I think they were $3 a piece from Time Tunnel. Then I went and saw a guy that had a bunch of dollar books. There was a lot of dollar book dealers, and when you go to like the big shows like Charlotte, like the Heroes Con in Charlotte, there's not that many dollar tables or dollar boxes anymore. It's usually like $2 or $3 or $5. But the Demon, which is old Jack Kirby from the 70s, this is a rough copy. It's not in the best of shape. It's not something you're going to have slabbed or save it. It's a reader copy. That's what it is. But I love reader copies, and I wanted to pick this up. It was only $1 for issue of the Demon. That's hard to find these days. Now, if I was smart or smarter when I was younger, I'd have picked all these up, but no. And some of the Fantastic Four that was out when I was a kid, there was tons of issues of it in the dollar boxes, and now it goes for like $50, $60 a book, and if not more than that. They also had, I picked up a lot of free comic book day versions of Manga, which is Attack on Titan, which I said was my son's favorite show, which is about these giants attacking people, but then they're attacking these little people, and it's like Godzilla. It's kind of crazy, but they have no skin, and they're ugly, and it's kind of gross, I think, but my son likes it. They also had Dragon Ball, which this Dragon Ball is like a flip book. It's got some other stuff in it, but this was a free comic book day, which is the first Saturday in May. If you didn't know, it was free comic book day, and I picked that up because these bigger books, One Punch Man. Now this one actually has My Hero Academia on the flip side of it. One Punch Man is a big anime and manga right now. But if you're going to study the drawing and stuff like that, the larger example you've got and something you can lay a little flatter, that's going to be better for me in my game. So happy to see that. Happy to see that had My Hero Academia because that's my favorite. Then also, if you've ever seen Cartoonist Kayfabe, this is Jim Ruggs' book, Street Angel. And this is about Street Angel's dog. He redid it. He had originally done it years ago, but he redrew it and everything once he got a little better. I mean, he was great when he started, but he decided to redo the entire book. He did it, and it was a free comic book day edition from Image. And hey, $1? Yeah, I'm picking that up. Also, this is crazy. There was a book called, book is called Marvel Triple Action, which I remember as being a reprint book of the Avengers. So if you missed out on the Avengers in the 70s, you know, all those books come out in the 60s originally. If you missed out on it, you had Marvel Triple Action. I couldn't remember the name of the book. Anyway, you had Marvel Triple Action. I remember actually being in the hospital at Caldwell Memorial as a kid, and my mom stopped and got me a handful of comics and had picked them up and brought them to me. And because I was having to spend the night in the hospital, I had a kidney stone. I passed. It was fine. That's the only time I've had one when I was a little kid. But anyway, my mom had got me a Marvel Triple Action, which was the early Avengers story. But anyway, I didn't know the Fantastic Four was in them. But I found the first 3 issues. So issue 1, 2, and 3. And actually issue 2 has some grease pencil marks on it and stuff. And I looked up how to get that off of there with like a kneaded eraser, and it came right off. It looks better than it did when I bought it for $1. But anyway, just you never know what you're going to find. Also found this. I love Popeye. Popeye is just, if you can't tell, here's Popeye over here and Wimpy. I've always liked Popeye. There's just something about it. And but anyway, here's Popeye telling you how you can work in environmentalism and get a job there. So Popeye trying to help out the environment back in the 70s. Ultraman. We're talking about kaiju. We're talking about Japanese. Ultraman was a big hit at my house. We watched a lot of Ultraman. I have the original series on Blu-ray, and I've yet to watch them all, even though I know I've seen them all, but I got to go back and watch them all. But I love Ultraman, and there's like new versions of Ultraman, and it's just kept going. It's never stopped. So there's like several different series of Ultraman you can get on Blu-ray and DVD. You can watch them on streaming. You can watch them. You can watch them probably free on YouTube. You can watch a ton of them. But anyway, Marvel had done an Ultraman book, and this is The Rise of Ultraman. This is issue 3, issue 4. They were only $1. You know, back into that manga thing. Now, when I talk about filling holes, I'm talking about my collection of comics that I do have, and I will have holes. I will have like this issue. I'll have like issue 104 and issue 106, but I did not have issue 105 of The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is really got me excited about comics again when it came out, and it's I didn't get into it until just before the movie. of the first episode came out. And I was hearing stuff from Comic-Con that summer because they screened the film, the first premiere episode at Comic-Con. And when I heard the excitement for it, I'm like, I got to go scoop up the back issues. And I scooped up as many as I could. Jump ahead, I decided to sell them to buy other stuff in my collection. And so I had sold a bunch of them. And now I'm trying to go back and buy the ones. Now that the show's over, I mean, I know we got The Walking Dead City of the Dead, and then we got the Daryl Dixon show that's coming up, but it's kind of lost its flavor. A lot of people got mad after Negan showed up, and so it's not as popular, so all this stuff has dropped in price. This particular book was $5. That's considerably different than what it had been, and this one was $5, which is issue 132, which was just a couple of holes I filled in my collection. Now, that being said, they have Robert Kirkman, the guy who created Walking Dead, is never one to shy away from a buck, and so he's going to try to make any money he can. And he's the Taylor Swift of comic books. And Invincible, you've heard of Invincible? He made that. You heard of Walking Dead? He made that. You know, he's the Taylor Swift of comic books. I'm sorry, the current flavor. He made a book called Firepower about a martial artist with firepower. He made a book called Die, Die, Die. There's all kinds of books that he's done. And he's like been added as a founder of Image, even though he wasn't around or working when Image was founded. So does that make sense? That's how popular he is. Like the guy. Don't have a problem with him. I keep buying his books. But anyway, to make a buck, like Taylor Swift would, he started reprinting The Walking Dead in color, and now it's called Walking Dead Deluxe. The original Walking Dead was done in black and white so that it looked like the original zombie movie, Night of the Living Dead. And so they did all of it in black and white. Now they're going back and they're recoloring it, and they're doing it like one issue at a time. And so this is one of the holes filling in my slots here. You know, this is issue 11. They're up to like issue 60. Comes out like once or twice a month. It comes out pretty quick because they've already got the artwork done, the writing done. All they're having to do is color it. So filling in holes, that's what that's called. Also, I got interested, I'd gone to, if you're in Lenore or in Caldwell County, our comic book shop is, of course, Comics Range, which is over on Morgan Boulevard. And if you have not been to Comics Range, do yourself a favor, get in your car and go, except on Monday because they're closed. The rest of the week, they're there. Great folks, great family runs it, have all kinds of books. He gets just about everything new, which is amazing. The nearest shop I know that gets everything, just about, is in Charlotte. So he's putting some bank into this. He's betting on you guys. But I picked up the new X-Men books, and this was some of the early issues the guy had for $1. This is like issue 2. I saw issue 1. I should have gone back and got it, but it wasn't in the dollar box. It was like $5 or $6. But issue 2, issue 3, and issue 4 of the X-Men, the new X-Men books. Now, talking about the manga and talking about that stuff, talking about Shonen Jump, which is where a lot of these manga series started. Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, One Punch Man, all of them. Demon Slayer, all that stuff started in Shonen Jump. And this is a Shonen Jump from America. They'd actually published it in America up until, I think, around 2015. This issue is from 2012, and it had Blue Exorcist, which was kind of a Demon Slayer kind of precursor. But anyway, they're talking about the anime had come out for that, and it's kind of got a read and watch guide. But like Japanese comics, they read from left to right. I mean, from right to left. They read the other way. And so, but they are in English. You just got to read it the other way. So that's a Naruto. So I noticed that headband. But anyway, this is how they do comics in Japan. It is like 20 pages, you know, that comes out once a week, or not even 20 pages. I think it's like 10 pages maybe once a week. But it's all bound together in this phone book size book. And then it'll be all these different characters. It'll be Naruto. It'll be One Piece. It'll be Bleach. It'll be all of that. And this is how they came out. And one of the local grocery stores used to pick it up. And And that's how I got it. Originally, I bought like the first few issues. And they would also do weird things in it, like here's a card from a card series, a hologram card. And it's just super glued, it's a booger glued in there. And so you got a free card to a card game out of there. And it's advertising on the back. What we got here is advertising Yu-Gi-Oh, which is where Yu-Gi-Oh came from. Yu-Gi-Oh was in these books. So very popular Japanese manga, and this is done in America. It was done in America, and I used to pick these up. A guy had a bunch of these, and I just kind of went for one with a cool cover and something I wanted to see, which was Blue Exorcist, which I've picked up Blue Exorcist at Tabrisa Books in downtown Lenore before. So don't forget Tabrisa Books. They're right downtown. $1 a book. If it's kind of rare, they might have $5 to $8 on it. I mean, nothing under everything's under $10. I've never seen anything over $10. But they have books, they have DVDs, they have comics from time to time. I check in once a week. They're open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I try to swing by Thursday or Friday, see what they got, maybe pick up some stuff, fill in my collections. And then they have regular paperback books that are anywhere from 50 cents to $1, that you can pick up. But this was the haul. This was a little bit of everything. I know this was a long episode talking about all this stuff, and I haven't been on here in a while talking about this stuff, but I'm just really into manga right now, and I wanted to share my love. Maybe you or your family is into anime, or you've been watching an anime series on Netflix or something. You might want to read the print book and see how it's like. I will say, because I have read some of the My Hero Academia, it has a little more humor to the comic, and it's also kind of a mean humor. It's a mean-spirited humor. So it's a little more fun. It's a little more fun than what they can do in the G-rated anime show that they're showing on Hulu. So, I mean, it's not anything really bad. It's just got a little more guts to it or something. A little more, speaking of guts, Berserk, there's another manga. But, it's something out there. We're getting hosed in comics in America now. We are totally getting hosed because the great comics are coming from Japan. And the reason they're coming out is they work these people to the bone. I mean, they're putting out in America, an American comic is 20 pages every month. That's supposed to be 5 pages a week. So Monday you make a page, Tuesday you make a page, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You make a page every day. And then that's sent to a letterer. He's making a page every day. You send that to an inker who's inking the pencils. He's making 5 pages a week. Then you're sending it to the colorist. They're making 5 pages a week. And so by the time the month is over, you have a 20-page book. And so then you have your 20-page book. Oh no, these people hire teams and teams and teams of people like they used to back in the day for newspaper cartoons. And so like the main artist will write the story or come up with the story, and he might draw the main character. But then there's one guy that draws this character. There's one guy that draws all the cars. There's one guy that draws all the buildings. There's one guy that draws all the backgrounds. And he's got a team of people so they can get these books out on time. And even the guy that did Berserk, which is a very famous manga, he recently died at 55. And they said he was so obsessed with it that he would take one day off a year. And that's all he would take off because he worked so hard on that book. And he basically killed himself doing it. So, I mean, it's a passion thing. Some people are very passionate about it. But that's where they're skunking us because our guys are taking their time, dragging these stories out. And these guys are working in teams and they're getting it done. They're getting it done out there. Better books, stranger concepts. It's just, in some ways, it's a lot more fun than current American comics. That's just me talking. But I just kind of wanted to go over the haul, talk to you guys, hadn't talked to you in a while, and just show you what's out there. So thanks for taking the time. If you like this and you want to see more content like this, just hit like and subscribe down there and keep going, man. Keep going with the comics. I'm Eric Stafford saying, have a great day.